Yo, 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 back for another film review, this time of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, first of all, I just have to say I was actually planning to make this review last night after having seen the film last night, but a bunch of things came up, so I couldn't do it. But I had a recurring dream in the middle of the night that I was making this review, and it was absolutely ridiculous, to the point of ridiculousness, which is why I'm actually telling you about it now. Because in my dream, I kept on saying to you guys, yeah, but what do the dead reckon? Like, oh, okay, so these people think it's good, they think it's good, but it's the dead reckoning. The dead reckon maybe it's not that good. Should we ask them? Like, it was so ridiculous. It was just like, I had this long sort of like Tales from the Crypt sort of creep show thing where I was literally going, but what did the dead reckon of the new Mission Impossible? The dead reckoning, it wasn't that good. So stupid. Anyway, that now I can finally get it out of my head. I've cleared bandwidth space in my own mind because now it's out of here and into there, and now you get to think about that sort of play on language. Right then, what did I think of the film? Well, first of all, before I go into it, I'm going to say that my personal favourite Mission Impossible film is actually the third one. And the reason I say it is because I think it's relevant when talking about a franchise this big that's gone on for this many years and been this much of a success. It's relevant for me to say the one that I like the most, because you might say, oh no, it's got to be the original first one, and some of you might think it's John Woo's second one, although no one really seems to think that's the best one. I've never met anyone who thinks that's the best one. But I think it's impossible to not draw some comparisons between originals. And so there you go, I've said it, now it's out in the air and you can make with it what you want. So I went to see this one yesterday, and overall I've got to say it's one of my favourites of the lot. It's got fantastic set pieces, it's got giant action spectacles, as you would expect. And for that reason, it's very, very enjoyable. But, and I find this to be a problem with a lot of movies in general nowadays, especially action movies, and certainly Mission Impossible movies, it's all the stuff that's not action that bothers me. It's all the bits where they just characters talking to each other. Now, early on in the film, there's a certain amount of dialogue between Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames, those three characters, those three actors, and that's kind of okay because they're established characters, they've been there for a long time, and they're well-loved actors. And Simon Pegg always brings a certain amount of lightness, let's say. Whereas there's a heaviness to all of the other actors and performances, to the point where it starts to drive me a bit crazy. There's a thing that they do in Hollywood, and I know this having worked on movie sets many, many times. I don't know how many days and months and even years I've spent working on movie sets. But there's a thing which has happened, which is since the microphone that they record actors with has become more and more and more powerful, they find that if an actor talks very, very quietly, and then they turn up the volume in the mix, so you hear it through the cinema speakers, everything has a certain rumble to it, and it's got this kind of tremble and this cinematic presence, to the point where everybody has to whisper all the time. Oh my God, what's going on? Are you going there? Are you going here? And it's absolutely crazy, because if you actually work on a movie, you'll often find that you have like two actors who are face to face, and in real life they can barely hear each other, and they're being encouraged to talk quieter and quieter and quieter because of the way the mic picks it up. But that's actually started to affect performances. You don't have to do that, that's still a director's choice, but sometimes I'm sitting in the cinema going, this is fucking irritating, because everyone's giving the same performance, the same bland, one note, one dimensional performance. And thankfully Simon Pegg has sort of come out of comedy, and he's worked with Edgar Wright and stuff, and he's a writer himself, and it seems like he's kind of unwilling, or that's just not his kind of thing, so he adds a bit of personality. And I'm not saying, oh, it's a wonderful performance from him, I'm just saying it's different to everyone else's performance, so thank God it's not one performance with a dozen actors all giving the same performance. But that stuff is annoying, and I kind of I haven't the time to edit this stuff in. One day I might make this channel like it used to be, and I'll stick in video clips. But if you go back and you watch action films by other directors, let's say for example you watch Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance, and you watch Predator, right? All three films were directed by John McTiernan, who was an absolutely brilliant action film director. Some of the most famous action films ever he did. But one thing he's excellent at is building tension and keeping suspense in all the scenes when there's no action happening. There's a fantastic sequence in Die Hard with a Vengeance where a policeman and police inspector, maybe, I don't know exactly, but he's a policeman, and he's speaking to somebody on the telephone. And the camera is very slowly moving through the offices, and people are walking past, and then the camera sort of goes to the back of the guy's head, and it starts slowly moving around him as you're hearing this voice, and you can't quite see the police inspector's face yet, but there's so much control over building tension and curiosity and suspense in a non-action scene. And really a great action director should be able to be an all-rounder so that there can be tension just in conversation. But in this film, aside from, like I said, it was okay at the beginning, but for the most part, when you just get the people speaking to each other, it's just bad. It drops like a lead balloon. All the pace falls out of it, all the interest falls out of it, all the skill, all the panache just drops right out of it. It's like a ship taking on water real fast, and you're kind of thinking, this is really flat, just flat as a pancake. And then it's got all these empowered females, all of whom seem to be English for some reason, because obviously if you're going to be empowered and a female in an American movie, you have to be English. And then the other thing is, maybe it's like, oh, it's controversial to say this stuff nowadays, but they all act like guys. There's a female character who's a pickpocket. She's a bit more interesting than some of the others, but all the women seem to be giving male performances. And I don't know if it's a director saying, we want you to act like men, be like a man, be serious like a man, hold a gun like you're a man. But as a man, it's kind of implausible, and you do kind of just feel it in a way where it's like everyone's sort of unbelievable. It's just hard to convince yourself that all of these women would naturally give the same performance and have the same personality, and all the women act like men. And it is a little bit like annoying, and it's like, you don't need to do that. The very simple example I give over and over again is Ripley in Aliens, Sarah Connor in Terminator, both empowered women, and they can have masculine traits when they have to, but they are also very much women, and they have personalities, three-dimensional personalities. And in this, they're just kind of annoying. Like, it is like, oh my god, some of these performances are annoying. And then to emphasize how annoying the performances are in the non-action scenes, whenever the actors are talking to each other, there's like this long sequence when they're in a nightclub, an outdoor nightclub talking, and oh my god, it's like a spoof. It's like a Mission Impossible parody. And every time somebody talks, it ends with a head tilt. And it's like, I don't know about that. What's going on? Are you sure? And it's like ridiculous. Somebody could literally do a montage cut of every single head tilt in this film, and it would just be absolutely stupid. It's like 150 times someone says something and then ends like that. And it's just irritating. You're just like, what are they doing? Who directed it like this? It's really, really over the top and sort of amateurish, and becomes farcical. Like I said, it becomes like a spoof of its own thing. It'd be very, very easy to parody the amount of unnecessary head tilts there are in it. But that aside, the idea is very interesting. The idea of the enemy being this kind of digital warfare thing is pretty interesting. It has some set pieces that I thought were sort of worth the wait, let's say, and some of it reminded me a little bit of Time Crisis 2, which only is going to mean something to a handful of people out there. But if you've ever played Time Crisis 2, the arcade game, and it came out on the PlayStation 2, there are certain moments in that video game that I sort of saw on this, and I thought, that's kind of cool. Just particularly the end of the film is big, and it's very sort of Tom Cruise explosive. But I do really think, like, if you go back to the original Mission Impossible, even to the TV series, which is what I loved first, I used to watch the TV series, they know how to have sequences where actors speak to each other and it'd be interesting. And then if you watch the very first of the Mission Impossible movies, the big spectacle kind of scene wasn't even the finale on the train, that kind of action set piece. The one everyone talked about was the one where Tom Cruise is coming down from the ceiling and he can't touch the floor and he's on wires. So it's massive tension without the need for giant, let's jump out of a building, let's jump off a cliff, let's land on a train, let's blow this up, let's blow it. It was like real kind of suspense and tension. And I just think if this film was able to do that as well, and go, we can have tension without the explosions, then you would have an all-round movie. One, without giving away any spoilers, that there are a couple of fights in the film. One fight between a man and a woman, and I was sort of sitting there thinking, man, this choreography is naff. Like, some of it's very good, but some of it I was like, this is just, it's like high school play choreography. But if you fly, like, the cameras over, they're fighting on a bridge. If you fly a camera over it and it's like going woomph, woomph, and then you've got loud music, music that I've got to say, because it kept coming back to me, sounded like the Batman Forever soundtrack. I kept thinking, it's like they've taken the Batman Forever soundtrack, and certainly Batman theme, and just stuck it over Mission Impossible, which is a bit weird, being that Mission Impossible has such an iconic theme tune, but it sounded very, very Batman. Joel Schumacher's Batman. And I don't know why that is, but it was there. But either way, it's like, you can't really fool an audience always into thinking this woman's going to actually be fighting this man. No matter how many giant elaborate camera swoops you do and big loud music, it's like, there are women who can do that, right? There are some awesome movies from the 80s. There are some great Hong Kong female stars who could do that, and you genuinely go, okay, yeah, this woman can kick some ass. And in this, it's sort of like, just because you're doing a really serious expression and you never smile and you never laugh and you never seem girlish, doesn't mean it's actually convincing the audience. And I don't think it convinces women either. Anytime I speak to women about this, they're always like, oh, I can never really do that. Like, it always seems a bit ridiculous that she does a flying kick and he goes flying. It's like, it doesn't quite work. But that said, it's worth the price of entry. It's got some awesome stuff, and I really, really did like it. And it is, like I said, it's actually one of my favourites that I've seen of the lot. I will add, I don't fully get the Mission Impossible obsessives for the new franchise. I don't quite get it. The last movie, people lost their minds for it, saying how amazing it was. People whose opinions I trust lost their minds for it. I felt the same way I feel about this. I felt every scene where they're just talking sort of is really quite boring, and the characters are quite boring. And there wasn't much in there that made me even want to stay particularly awake until the action starts. So I'm not really the number one crowd for this one. But there's stuff in the movie I would happily watch again in this one. And I guess that's about it. That's really all I have to say about the movie. It's entertaining, it's big and explosive, but it'd be great if they could build suspense and tension in the actors acting and talking. That would be good as well. And there must be, I've got to say, there's one thing that did sort of annoy me, which is, you know, when they put on the masks and pretend to be someone else. There's a scene in this where one girl puts on the mask of another girl, but her eye colour is different. And it was almost like, I think they put it in to try to be tense, but I was just thinking, this is stupid. She's got different eye colour. Everyone's going to notice that. So I didn't really understand that bit. But that's not what you pay for, is it? You pay for Tom Cruise jumping off a mountain with his motorbike. And that was awesome. That was really cool. And there was way better stuff in the movie than just that. So yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. And there were things in it I would quite happily see a second and maybe even a third time. I just don't really want to sit through the dialogue to get there. Anyway, yeah, that's it. By the way, I'm working on a bunch of stuff. I'm writing. I just finished writing a new novel, which I'm fixing up now, and I have some already available. If you're interested, write something. I'll send you some links. They're available on Amazon. So I am occupied, and if you don't know anything about me, I do this, and I've made other films. I made a documentary that's doing really well on the net. It's got 500,000 views without any advertising. It's not on this channel, it's somewhere else. But yeah, with no ads, it's broken 500,000 views, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I'm in the middle of quite a lot of creative projects. Did a comic book recently, which was a massive amount of work. I'm hoping we can get issue 2 done. Depends on the artist, you know. And because it's written, I've written 5 issues, so hopefully they're all coming. So there's loads of stuff. It's like a lucky dip. You just stuff's gonna just happen, you know. If you just stick around, you'll discover all kinds of greatness, great, wonderful, creative endeavors all happening right here. But anyway, yeah, that's Mission Impossible. So what did you guys think? Are you big fans? Anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.